talking about anti-aging, and we were also talking about the short-term and the long-term benefits of Aeon. So the short-term benefits are pretty obvious, right? So you apply the Aeon patch, it reduces stress on the nervous system, it triggers what we would call the primitive or innate immune system, and we get a reduction in inflammation. This in part occurs because of an increase in superoxide dismutase, SOD, which, like glutathione, is one of the primary antioxidants in the body. So we saw during our blood tests, Aeon elevates SOD, among other things. What does this all have to do with anti-aging, since the short-term benefits are so obvious? Another study that we did were on dogs, and this was a case where there was all these blue areas, very poor, impaired areas of circulation, and then within 20 minutes of using Aeon, we can see normalization. We did other tests which showed that this was in part due to a balancing of the autonomic nervous system. We did that clinical study with Doctors Tom and Helen Budzinski. This is critically important because when we think of the response of the immune system is intimately connected with our mental state. So if we're very calm and relaxed, our nervous system is balanced, and we'll have very little stress on our adrenal system, on our endocrine system. And if, however, we're in a state of emotional agitation, we're under stress, we go into fight or flight, then we go into what's called a sympathetic drive. Now maybe we get a shot of adrenaline, and if we get into a chronic state, maybe people are workaholics, they're under a lot of family stress, a lot of emotional stress, this will in turn lead to elevated levels of inflammation. Maybe it's short term, maybe it's longer term. But this has everything to do with the aging process, because if we're under a lot of emotional stress all the time, and this leads to chronic inflammation, that inflammation is going to damage healthy tissue, may cause breaks in DNA, and lead to chronic disease. So this is why tools such as meditation have been so valuable to people in improving the quality of health and the quality of their life and longevity. Many people don't have time to meditate, so fortunately we have products like Aeon that can reduce stress in a very natural way. So this is what we talk about when we're talking about balancing the autonomic nervous system relative to the aging process. This is one way to think about it. Interestingly, we don't want the nervous system to be too relaxed. This problem can occur when people get too much sleep, for example. It's having healthy stress is good. So, for example, fasting. When we can fast for, let's say, 16 hours. The rules are going to be a little bit different for women than they would be for men. But let's say you engage in a system of periodic fasting. That would be a healthy stress that we're going to put on our body. Our body will adapt to this healthy stress, and it's going to improve immune function. And even it's going to alter gene expression in a very healthy way. Another example of healthy stress would be exercise. So we go and exercise, we're going to be breaking down or having tears in muscle tissue. Our body has to respond. We end up making our heart, lungs, muscles stronger. And this, of course, is going to contribute to health and longevity. Now, we want to be in a relaxed state, But paradoxically, if we're too relaxed, and we would be in what's called a parasympathetic drive, if we're too relaxed, then this can actually depress the effects of the immune system. I remember reading once about Mariah Carey, and that she would like to sleep for 12 or 13 hours a day. This is going a little bit too extreme. 8 hours, 9 hours per day on the outside is great for sleep, but if we sleep too long, we can actually depress the immune system, and that, of course, is not going to be good. Okay, so when we're looking at this, we can say, okay, it makes sense that inflammation and aging are connected, but we want to go a little bit further and understand the cause of aging, so that ultimately someday what we can have is a treatment for aging and a reversal of the aging process. And at Lifewave, in our research, that's what we work on. We work at looking at practical technologies that people can afford that will eventually lead to age reversal. And X39 is really our first big step in that direction. So we have to have a theory. We need to have a model for aging. And there are many different theories that are out there. Some of them have been proven or disproven up to this point, and every scientist, they have their own perspective on this. Some scientists believe that we live and die by the telomeres. So the telomeres are rods which are on the ends of the chromosomes, and as the cells divide, the telomeres get a little bit shorter. And eventually, when the telomeres are gone, our cells can no longer divide. This is called the Hayflick limit, and it happens when we're about 75. So without question, if we can keep the cells dividing, we can extend longevity, but we also have to make sure that the cells that are dividing are younger, healthier cells. There's also this idea, this is one idea Aubrey de Grey can talk about, is that there's an accumulation of damage, and that if we could use natural materials or drugs to reduce or remove damaged cells that occur in the body, we can stop and reverse aging. Now, there are a number of ways to remove damage that has accumulated over time. One of them I've already mentioned, which is fasting. Fasting helps to facilitate the process of removing dead cells from the body. So that's one way that fasting can help. There is a naturally occurring material called fisetin. Fisetin is found naturally in peppers, although I don't believe that there's enough in peppers for you to see an anti-aging effect, so supplementation might make sense. But fisetin has some interesting research around it, and it may be a inexpensive, natural way to help the body remove damaged cells and extend life. We'll have to...
All right, guys, we're going to get started here. And all right, look at that young couple we got here, John.
How about that?
There you go. I found out something fascinating today. That's why I was playing David Schmidt a little bit on Aeon. And I really, and I say this with all sincerity, I encourage you, take the time, turn on YouTube videos, type in David Schmidt, and listen to his lectures on the different patches. One thing you will notice, I listened to a very long lecture today And it's the company, it's what we call the company one, where he does it from the company. And he went, and I was studying up on Aeon, is what I wanted to study up on. And now, because of what I heard him say about Aeon today, I have them all down my spinal cord. So I'm wearing 3 patches right now on my.
Really.
Yes. And what he said, I'm going to tell you what he said. But he went in a long roundabout way of bringing this out. He first started saying all these different. How would I put this? David uses case studies of other things that doctors have done to show you the benefits of longevity, things like that. Like he'll use the case of the queen bee. She lives 50 times longer than the worker bee does. And he discusses because it's the royal jelly that she gets, but then it's a specific peptide in that royal jelly that is what causes her to have that longer life. And by the way, this is what the Aeon patch does. It actually is activating that copper peptide in our body. That's why they call it a Y-age patch, I guess is their terminology for it, so you live longer. But he made a very interesting comment at the end of this lecture, and it was really worth listening to. I'll have to send it to you, John, so you guys have it if you want to post it or whatever for other people to look at it. But you wonder if he's ever going to get to the Aeon patch when you're listening to it, because he talks about so many interesting things and studies and supplements and things like that. But if you really pay attention to what he's doing, he's showing you all the things that if you affect a certain peptide in the body, the benefits that you can get that they've found through all these case studies. And he's doing it this way so that he doesn't overstep the boundaries of what is kind of like Lifewave is a little bit on a gag order. They can't make certain medical claims because it's considered a medical device, not it doesn't heal you, etc. And it is true, it doesn't heal you, it only assists your body to get better. But knowing how the patches really work can make a major difference in your recovery. And this is why I wanted to talk about Aeon. I've heard a lot of people talk about great things about Aeon, and I like Aeon. And Aeon is the reason why I got to where I could really walk and maneuver and go up and down steps. And I mean, I'm out today cutting wood with a chainsaw. I'm placing big boards up into the ceiling, you know, just holding it up there with one hand and then screwing them in, you know, with the other hand. And we're talking about 4x8 sheets of wood, and that's not an easy thing to do. But anyway, David was saying in this lecture that inflammation hinders the ability for stem cells to repair the body. I didn't know that, and so what I did is I researched it for myself. You know, I mean, I believe him. It's not that I don't believe him, because when you're listening to him speak of these things, he will cite the actual case studies for it. So I looked it up, and just to give you on one right here, it says right here, yes, inflammation is considered a significant obstacle to stem cell success because it can negatively impact the function and self-renewal capacity of stem cells, essentially impairing their ability to regenerate tissue and repair damage in an injured, diseased area. Chronic inflammation in particular can significantly deplete stem cell population and hinder their therapeutic potential. So let's say if we go to a doctor, like I had one doctor inject they spun my blood down, removed the stem cells, and they injected it into my lower back. But I never got any benefit. And yet, it's essentially the same thing as if I had the stem cells that I do with the patch, but being directly placed there. But why didn't I get a good impact from that like I do from the patch itself. And I finally figured out why and why this makes sense. At one point, because on my lower spine, and I can actually read MRIs because I did nuclear physics back years ago, but it's more of a hobby than anything, but I can read them pretty well. When you look at my MRI, on my left lateral, I got 5 discs that are just, it's horrendous. It's scary looking. I've got one vertebrae that's collapsed and it sits sideways like that. But the discs are so badly blown out, you can literally see them just digging into the nerve root. And that's what was causing me all this pain. My lower back was always swollen. I mean, if I didn't have a shirt on, you could just see it. I mean, it'd be like, look almost like an inch thicker than any other part of my back was that whole area where all those discs were blown out. And when I first started wearing X39, I would do like they would say, C7, etc. But I always remembered Todd and Shannon, and Mike, Nancy, you guys may not know them, but they've been on with us here with John Moore before, and you might see them here come on over on Sunday night too, every once in a while. But they, Shannon she had talked about when I first met them, she talked about she had a bulge on her back, on her spinal cord, and she just had Todd, her husband, place the X39 right on top of that bulge. And over a period of time, I forget what she said, a month or so, it was gone. Well, we don't really know what caused it, but what I started doing was I decided from that idea, I moved down the X39 to the lower back, and I kept it there for several weeks, but I didn't really notice anything. And then somewhere along the way, I just started putting the Aeon because I heard that it helps reduce inflammation. So I thought, well, maybe I could at least get some of the swelling down in my lower back. After about a month of consistently wearing Aeon and X39 on my lower back, all the swelling went away. And that's when I really began to notice, and of course I'd already been doing X39 for probably about 5 or 6 months before I actually started doing it like that. And then, I began to realize that I was doing much better. I also moved the X39 not on top of the bone on C7, but just below it about a ½ an inch, because Ron was saying that's the actual acupressure spot. And that even made a big difference. But now, after listening to David Schmidt about this Aeon patch, and it's not an expensive patch, it's $49 for 30 of those. But I realized that that's the reason that that whole area changed for me. And I don't know if I said this to you guys, maybe Sunday I may have made a mention. I think I did mention it last Sunday, but I think on our Friday call may not. So Martha may have not have been there Sunday, so I'll say it for her. But there was another guy that started, his name is Mark. Mark lives up in Canada. He's a martial arts guy. He's 58 years old. And he had called me about, I want to say it was around December or January when I was right when I first started doing this. And he said, Steve, he says, I've got this 20-year-old back injury. And he said, I'm really getting concerned that, I'm going to have to retire. He said, but you don't really retire from a martial arts teacher because you don't have any income. He said, I can't do anything else really. He says, and I don't want to go work for Walmart, and he said, do you really think this X39 would work? And I told him honestly, I said, I hear this. I said, but quite frankly, Mark, I don't know. I've only been doing it for by that time I'd been doing it for 1 month. And I said, I can reach down and touch the floor. I couldn't do that before. I said, but other than that, Mark, honestly, I have no idea. I said, but hey, what do you got to lose? You pay $100 a month. I said, well, I'll tell you what they told me. And that was Manuel, the guy that started me on it, and also another friend of ours that was doing it. He said, it's going to take a minimum of 6 months to see any difference. Well, I got little differences here and there, but, as time went on, of course, I never heard again from Mark. So I didn't even know if Mark was still doing it or not. And then he called me last week and he said, hey, Steve, I wanted to get with you. I know your aunt had the Parkinson's dementia type of issue. My dad has that, and I want to know what patches you use. And he said, oh, by the way, he said, shoot, it's almost a year now since I first started the patches. He said, I wanted you to know something. He said, I should have told you this a long time ago. He said, for the past maybe 3 or 4 months, he said, that pain totally left. I'm able not only to train, I'm on the floor doing grappling and everything. He says, and I have zero problems with my back now. So I was really, really happy to hear that with him, knowing what he was facing. But now that we understand a little bit more about this Aeon patch, that might have a lot to do with some success for people as well, because I had no clue that, and by the way, too, when I say inflammation, you don't have to wear, like I'm doing now, I got 3 of them on my back. Mainly it's because after lifting these boards all day onto the ceiling there, you can only imagine every muscle in your back feels like it's about to die. It's not so much from an injury at that point, it's just I'm not used to using those muscles. So they were hurting like crazy, and I had my daughter, I said, put it all the way down, boom, 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 like buttons on a shirt. And she did, and that was about 30 minutes ago, and now I feel perfectly fine. So that's pretty wild. I've not had that experience with Aeon. I have had it with Icewave, but not with Aeon. So that makes me feel good. Makes me feel good to know that we got a patch that and that might have a lot to do too. Let's say, John, have you ever used Aeon on your knee or anything? I know you used X39 and X49 on your knee.
I haven't used Aeon. No, no.
Do you still have trouble with that knee?
It's getting better, but a little help wouldn't hurt at all.
You have Aeon patches though, don't
Oh
you?
yeah, I got some. Yep,
I
absolutely.
would try that. I really
I'll
would.
give it a shot. Yeah, I'll try it tomorrow.
And I know there's different ways to wear that too. I mean, they show, of course, you know that from the book that you've got, but
Right.
I don't know if maybe closer to that area might not make it better, but you may find that that does a difference there. I would at least try it 30 days anyway, and or if nothing else, maybe every other day or something like that, where just to where you're getting that inflammation down, or maybe go at least a week straight and just see what kind of benefit you get from that. So, Mike, I'm curious. And by the way, I am looking up uh, to see if there's other testimonies out there about like what you guys are doing, where you're sharing patches like that. How's things going for you? I know you've probably been shoveling snow because we had snow twice this week, and but we don't get it as thick as what you got it.
Well, we probably in our area, even though most places north and south of I-70, 5 mile radius either way, had a dusting. We were in an area that got maybe 3.5 to 4 inches. And it was just on that weekend. But then this whole week has been a cold week, so I haven't done any of that work.
It has
It's
that.
been staying warm. But I guess I've learned something though. Nancy was telling me to whenever I take the patches off, always wash that spot where the patch was as far as the glue. And maybe I didn't listen to that very well. If I should listen to what she has to say, and then I would put a patch right back on there behind my neck. I figured the male must be the inverse of the female. You said a female does good with 39 below the belly button and 49 behind the neck. So I was taking her 39 behind the neck and the 49 below the belly. But I put it right back on top of where the glue spot was. And I guess I started to itch a little or something and irritate. And I may have done it a third time. before without washing up. But then when I tried to get a patch off, it was hard to get it off. And if I didn't have enough fingernail, and then I broke the skin, so I got a scab back there.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I guess it's wise to always wash that off. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, Michael
Well,
does really good the hard way.
yeah, and there's another thing you can do too, Mike, because some people they do, even though they use that hyperallergenic adhesive, you could take, and I'm going to use a glove for the example here. Let's say the glove is a shirt collar. That's not a, get it a little bit bigger. Let's say that that glove is your shirt collar, and this is the outside of the collar. If you turn that collar inside out, and then stick the patch on the collar itself to where the glue is on the collar, and then just let it flip back over and lay against your neck, that'll work too. Because it only has to be within 1 inch of your body. So if you got your t-shirt on, if your t-shirt's up high enough in that area there, just stick it on your shirt there and let it lay against that spot of your neck, and then you don't have to worry about the adhesive being on your body. And here's the thing, like on a dog, like my dog the other day, she was trying to get out because I left the house and left her here, and she ripped a big gash in her back. So I took her collar off, put an X39 on her collar, and I put it back on her. So the opposite side of the patch is laying on her skin, and the adhesive is stuck to the collar, because the patch works from either direction. And of course it really, and I've seen it before with the animals. And that's where I learned about leftovers anyway, was from a lot of the people that I first met. They would take and put them on their animals. They would say they'd put them on the collar of their dog or whatever. And even what's weird though about this, and I'm going to jump back to this Aeon patch. The whole purpose that David Schmidt developed this patch here for, though, was not just for the lowering of the inflammation, but that when he goes into all this, and I'm going to try to get better prepared for this coming Sunday too. I'm going to continue to really I'll go back and listen to it several times, but it was mainly for longevity. And that's where, when you start looking at these studies that they do, you find that these patches do a lot more than what we realize. And of course, what he talks about there, and on the Aeon, he talks a lot about the lobster. They've seen lobsters living, I want to say he said there was one type of lobster that'll live up to 300 years, but the tissue and everything of the lobster would be as if it was a 20-year-old lobster. And they talk about something about the lobster is able to regulate the stress within its own body. And so they start trying to figure out why that happens. And so what David has done is he's capitalized on the research of other scientists and how they do these things. And when they narrow it down, like he said, in the case of like the queen bee, 50 times longer living, and they say, well, it's the royal jelly, but what is it about the royal jelly? And then he discovers that it was a certain peptide. Well, in his case studies, he knows that he learned already from photobiomodulation that he can, depending on the type of natural elements he puts in that patch, it will cause the body to produce different peptides in the body, like in the case of the copper peptide. And we have more than one copper peptide in the body, but the GHKCU one is the one that causes, if that copper peptide is elevated, then your stem cells activate. And so now that we realize that if we lower the inflammation in the body by wearing the Aeon patch, then we would have a better success in causing the stem cells to actually repair the tissue. And besides, not only that though, there was some other studies I looked at as well before coming on tonight, and it's really got me curious now, because there's actually a lot of studies that actually talk about that very thing that he said, that inflammation is hindering the stem cells' ability to be able to repair tissue. And I think the reason why they're doing these studies is because so many people are starting to get involved in stem cell therapy. I mean, these are the injectable type, the type that you go to a doctor, and maybe they've harvested the stem cells from the umbilical cord of a mother that gave birth. That's one place where they get what they call the youthful stem cells, and then they inject those in your body. Now, of course, there's always a risk. I guess it's minimal though, but you're always injecting a tissue of another being into you, and that comes with risk. But they're even doing this in the brain now for people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and they're having very good success with it. Now, I don't know what happens to the people that may have a reaction to that, but I think this is the reason why we're seeing people with these illnesses that use these patches are having some success. Now granted, adding other patches is important as well. And I'll tell you, and by the way, John, I am recording this, so
Okay, good.
I can get this loaded tonight too. I think it was Scott John, the guy that follows you on your channel there. He had asked me just recently, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this up while we're at it, about Randy. Randy, oh gosh, let me find Randy on my phone because Randy's already sent me a message about Bratloff. Randy is actually an airline pilot for Southwest. They were going to retire him early because he had a severe macular degeneration to the point that his doctor said his macula looked like a potato chip.
Oh no.
And so he was really having a difficult time seeing, and he and his wife started using X39, but he ended up, after, I want to say it was about 8 months of being on it, he went back into the doctor. They re-examined him. His macula was like brand new. The doctor said it's like a child's.
This is X39.
Yeah, but what happened is Scott was asking me, I guess, because I think it's his dad has got the same problem. He says, can you ask Randy, because he remembered Randy giving that testimony one night on one of our Zoom calls. He said, what did he use? So I asked Randy today, and he said, yes, I used the X39. He said, but I also used X39, Aeon, and glutathione. He used all 4 of those patches. Now,
Where do you stick them?
well, here's the way you do that. Now, David Schmidt even says if you're able to, it's kind of nice to wear Aeon at night. Let that deal with the inflammation at night. He says because a lot of times it also calms the body down. It has a very calming effect. But some people say they can't sleep when they wear it at night. So it really depends on you. And by the way, if you're wearing it and you can't sleep, when you take it off 10 minutes later, there's no effect of the patch. You'd go to sleep if that's what's causing it. Now, you can wear it at the same time. And of course, again, like you guys already know, X39, let's say if you're doing C7, let's say you're doing X49 under the navel area. And then the Aeon can be worn a lot of places. You could put it right here on the breastbone, the sternum area there. You can wear it there. My aunt had a lot of success with arthritis wearing it there. You can also put it right here, right there behind the thumb area in that spot right there. There's some other places. When you get your package of in, they always got a little booklet that shows where you can place them at. And then glutathione. Now glutathione, I don't know where he was wearing the glutathione, but typically there's 2 places. In fact, I'm actually wearing 2 glutathiones right now, one on this lymph node and one on this one over here, because I started getting a little bit of a sinus issue, and if you get a scratchy throat, which I was having one, I put them on last night. I still got them on. I've been wearing them for almost 48 hours now, and the scratchy throat's already gone. But I think in his case, he probably put it on his foot. And in that case there, you would put it right, let's say if this is your big toe, your thumb, and the other toe here, you'd put it right in that area there. in between the big toe and that first toe there, and it detoxes the liver. But now he may have the glutathione. I don't know if that would have affected that. I really think it's more the Aeon and the 39 and 49 maybe. 49 really has a lot of benefits as well. And maybe I should do a little bit of studying up on that one too. Because besides bone density, it stimulates a different copper peptide. Great for the case studies show the cardiovascular side of it being just enormously beneficial for that. So I would imagine that 49 helps.
Is that Aeon better than carnosine
Well, carnosine's for a different reason altogether.
for the macular degeneration? He wasn't using carnosine.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You're right, because he didn't mention the carnosine, and carnosine is actually better as a general rule for eye health. At least in the case studies, we know that the carnosine, in fact, my wife almost always tells people, definitely use carnosine. If you're dealing with eye issues, use carnosine.
I would like to put it around the eye that's the problem.
Right? That's what people say too, but they always say you
Stick
don't
it on my
have to.
forehead or on my cheek or.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak too soon, but I use her leftover, and a lot of times she's not taking care of them where they're drying out, they're not sticking. But we saw where you put carnosine at just above the tailbone in the middle of the low back,
Yes.
and so I had her start doing that. So I did that too. I started putting her leftover carnosine on my low back. Of course, then I've got a 39 and 49 on right now too. But I don't want to speak too soon because I'm not using these patches for the same purpose for her because I got them for her. But they have helped my muscles. But I was laying in bed watching TV a few nights ago, and I was laying there, and for some reason I had to clean my glasses, and I couldn't believe that all of a sudden I'm reading the words on the TV.
Without his glasses.
Yeah.
If somehow it's gotten better already. I've gone to an ophthalmologist since 2002, and he retired just year before last, so I had to see somebody filled in with him last December. So I'm due this December for an ophthalmologist appointment. But in the 20 years or 21 years that I had this ophthalmologist, he said he didn't see any damage in my eyes from diabetes. And he was amazed because I do have diabetes, type 2. And he said,
Right.
but I had just a tiny cataract in my back left eye that if I keep my blood sugar down like I have, I would not have any trouble with cataracts the rest of my life. I don't know if that meant the rest of my life, only 5 more years. I don't know. But anyway, but he told me I'd come to a place where I'd plateau, where my cornea would flatten out, and I'd get my eyesight would be a little better than it used to be. So a newer prescription was better than the old ones. But for the last 3 exams, my prescription hasn't changed. But now all of a sudden, when I was reading that writing on the TV the other night without my glasses, I'm thinking, well, what if this carnosine is having that kind of an instant effect on me that now my eyesight is getting better, that I almost don't need the glasses. But that wasn't the next night though, because she'd taken the carnosine every other night.
Right.
Or 3 times a week. So she's got to put a carnosine on tonight, and I don't know what she did with the one from last night, if I need to stick that one on to see if there's a difference when I have the patch on compared to when I don't have it.
Well, over time, and I need to go back to wearing carnosine myself because my wife made an appointment for our son, and then he's got real bad OCD. And so when she found out that she made him an eye doctor appointment, he says, I'm not going. So my wife said, well, you need to go in his place because if we got to pay for it, we might as well go ahead and get advantage of it. And she said, you haven't been in a while. So So I said, all right. So I went down there and he did the exam and he gave me a new prescription. He said, you need a new prescription. And I said, why? I said, well, is it any better or worse? He said, well, at your age, it shouldn't be any better, but for some reason, your right eye has improved quite a bit. And he said, your left eye, though, you got a lazy left eye. And he said, that one's just always kind of a temperamental eye anyway. He said, ain't much we can do with that. So I put him on, and the funny thing is, right, I put him on, and the left eye I see fine, but still the right eye is still like, in order to get the right eye to work, I got to go this far from the computer. So that tells me that eye is doing better than even what he did it at. And so I got to go back again and get him to check it again, because I think the right eye is, instead of 100 points better, it's probably like more like 150 points better.
And which patch are you talking about now?
See, I haven't been wearing carnosine enough. I just mainly use X39 and Aeon, but now I'm using Aeon more regularly. But I do use carnosine from time to time. But I think if I did the carnosine more faithfully, I think it would make the big difference. So I think that's the one that's really, well, you got to keep in mind, carnosine is taking that aluminum out of our brain. So that's good too, for the mere fact for, possibility of dementia, or like a friend of my wife's, she's about, I think she's around 65 or 67, something like that. But very brilliant lady, but I've already started noticing that she's not doing as good as she used to on memory. And I've been telling Yana, you really need to tell her, that she should, try this and use that carnosine, because, that can make a huge difference. Too many people I've seen helped with that. And I really think that carnosine is a godsend. It really is that's an amazing patch, and you wouldn't think it that way, but it just, so many good things I hear about that one. So, but now I'm excited about Aeon. I mean, I have all these anyway, so it's not like we don't have them. They're sitting here because when we started off at a smaller level, but we put a lot of stuff on auto ship. But then we went all the way to the top, so we ended up getting all these patches in. So we had plenty of patches to play around with, and that's how we've learned on what does what. So just from experimenting with it. And so
My inclination is to stick them around the eye. That's the problem.
it doesn't hurt a lot of people to do that, even with X39. I mean, you could
But I
take
try it, on my
X39.
nose or under my eye or
No.
Yeah. If I was going to do it for the eye, I would probably go to the temple.
for the temple. Okay.
And the reason being is because all the nerves behind the eye and stuff like that. But I just don't, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, even David Schmidt has said, he said, our case studies are designed around those 2 points on the C7 and below the navel. He said, but theoretically, he said, anywhere you put it, it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Now granted, every time you place a patch, wherever you place it at, you may be going to an acupressure area. So the question is what does that acupressure area affect? It's like Ron was telling that one girl that her bicep was in a lot of pain, and then he tells her to put an Aeon patch way back here on the back of her shoulder. And I looked at him and I started laughing. I said, Ron, you really think that patch is going to help that girl's bicep back there? And he's kind of, more of a humble kind of guy. He goes, I don't know. Let's see. So
That's basically where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'll take the 39, put it on this shoulder muscle or the upper arm muscle one time, then the 49 over here. And if it helps my muscles free up and not painful. I haven't taken pain medicine for years. If you want to talk about inflammation, before we even met you about Lifewave, When I first met Nancy, we kind of dated for 2 years before we got married, and we've been married 6 years. But I'd come over to get her every day and take her somewhere. When I'd come over, she'd give me a quarter teaspoon of turmeric with
Yes.
a half teaspoon of vitamin C in 8 ounces of water and have me drink it. And then she'd put 4 drops of Alex Jones X2 iodine under my tongue. And in a year and a half doing that, not watching my diet, I lost 43 pounds and I got off of all
Whoa.
my I was on 42 units of insulin, and that year and a half I lost the 43 pounds, got off of insulin, got off my uh, uh, statin. I haven't taken insulin or statin since November of 2017. And I've maintained that weight loss. Haven't lost
Yeah.
any more.
You still doing the turmeric?
Oh, I've slid off of that lately. I got to get back on it.
Yes. Not. Hey, that's a good stuff right there.
But you're
Do
talking you're talking about Eon, no.
No, I'm talking about turmeric, where you said you were taking the
It makes
turmeric.
vitamin C, I think, makes a big difference there. Vitamin C powder
Yeah.
with the turmeric.
Not the caplet. We take the caplet too, but the vitamin C
Iodine's
powder.
real good too. Iodine's really good for memory, even, believe it or not.
Mhm.
People
Well,
don't realize how, David Schmidt, when he talks about one of our biggest issues in making patches work, he said, is the fact that most people are so depleted in certain minerals in the body and they don't even think about that.
No.
yeah, she's been taking what's considered the ingredients of Z-Pack for years, which would be olive leaf extract, vitamin A, vitamin C, and zinc. And uh, with all this going on with this COVID stuff, we've been taking that, and we take quercetin. But one day on John's show, John had a doctor on, and John shared that some gal was pregnant and she had taken a COVID shot, and she was worried that would affect the pregnancy. And that doctor said she should take a lot of zinc with vitamin K and even iodine along with that zinc, and she'd be fine
Hmm.
for her pregnancy. So the iodine is the thing with the vitamin K too. We take vitamin K, and we take CoQ10, and we take a probiotic acidophilus every day as well. And we take selenium and magnesium. Take all
DHEA, do you take DHEA yourself?
No.
what what
My
DHEA.
wife has got me taking DHEA. She was saying something about when you get older. She said if you find that you're getting tired a lot during the daytime, she said for men, they tend to go deficient on what they call DHEA. I don't know what it is. So I just obey and take it, I mean, she
I
tells
have to
me the
look that
Bible
up. I don't
says
know what it
obey
is.
your wife. And I said, yes, ma'am.
Well, I've been wondering. I've been wondering about cannabis. To tell you the truth, so many people, they put that cannabis oil on their knees. It clears up arthritis or even scars on your skin. And my one son had gashed his head and had staples in his head for a long time. When they took out the staples, and then he got to where he put cannabis oil on it, and you can't tell he even had a scar or nothing on it. He shaved his head all the time, so he's bald. Can't tell a scar. And people with their reports about even the cannabis, even some of these cannabis gummies. If I imagine you got to get the right stuff without the THC that makes you.
Yeah, you need a good high quality. Now I haven't heard of that one, but I'm gonna try to show you guys something here if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. I got it. Let me show you this. This is all right. This here is people that, for example, that had like this lady here, the surgery using X39 2 weeks later, how well it healed up. Now, sometimes that can be too because of a good, good surgeon, but then like this one here, that's a pretty serious scar there. July 2017, a year later, you can't even tell that it's hardly there. Uh, you know, it just, that was one thing that a lot of people I've heard that are using it that we knew that are having miraculous changes. Uh, you know, of course, this lady, this is just what it does for skin over time. Now, this lady here, if you see the picture of her 2 years after she's on X39, she looks like she's 35 years old or something, you know. But mainly the scarring and the skin, there's a lot of issues that when it comes to skin, you know, that just really the healing process of the stem cells working in there is just really amazing. Uh, there was one lady, I wish I could find her. David Schmitz shows it. And this boy here, this is another interesting one here. Now he just had I forget what kind of accident he had. Let's see, snowboard accident where he hit a rock with his face and just scratched him up pretty good there. But 5 days later, he wasn't even using X39, but I think his mom put him on it and it cleared him up that quick. So, but there's just all kind. But the one that really impresses me is a 90-something-year-old lady. I'll see if I can find it. And well, naturally, if you're in your 90s, I mean, I don't expect to look like a spring chicken, but my gosh, at the difference. Here's one here, another interesting, I guess varicose veins. And she's putting it down there by her foot there. And, well, that's in French. So I don't know how long it took. I guess that means day 7. It changed it that quick. I used to speak French as a kid, but I can't do it now. But the scarring was the thing I was thinking about when you mentioned that scars there. Is just there's so many testimonies of those there, and and then when they said that, I started looking at some of the old scars I had from a kid and stuff, and sure enough, the doggone things have just disappeared. And I've had them my whole life, and next thing I know, I wasn't even paying attention to it, and then they're just suddenly, all of a sudden, gone. That guy there is clearing up the spots and stuff on his face there. Eczema too. That's another thing I hear a lot of people talk about. My son has that, so I've been trying to get him to do it. But he's a professor, so he's smarter than his daddy. So he has to tell his daddy that his daddy don't know what he's talking about. So, but he's waiting for me to do it for 10 years, and then he'll try it. I'm like, you so retarded, boy. But anyway. All right, guys. You guys got any questions? Because I don't want to hold y'all too much
I
longer.
might have some once we try some of the new stuff. I mean, I'd like to
Okay.
have its maximum positive effect as quickly as possible.
Listen, you guys, you can get my number from John. Y'all can call me if you ever have.
Okay, I'd
Yeah,
like to do
I
that.
think I still got it written down.
Okay. That's anytime I can help you out. It's perfectly okay. I think, isn't Martha the girl on here that I think she said put in a chat for us one time her age? I maybe have that wrong. Is Martha the one that's in her 90s, John?
I'm not sure.
Okay. We had somebody on there. We were doing the chat, and she doesn't ever pop on the screen. I think it was Martha, and she put in the chat on there. She says, I'm 93 years old. I'm like, my goodness, what a spring chicken we got in here.
And see, she's smart enough to be looking at Lifewave.
Hey, who was it that? Oh, I know what it was. The guy that was the martial artist, Mark. Yeah, see, she's 92. God bless your heart, honey. I remembered that. I remembered her telling us that she's 92. So, well, anyway, Martha, let me tell you something. Mark, the guy that I was talking about that was a martial artist that wants the patches for his father, that's got started. He's early stages of Parkinson's, or maybe a little later than early. And so I asked him. I said, "Well, how old's your dad?" He said he'll be 100 years old this year. I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said he's 100 years old. I said, "My goodness, that guy. He's just now having to wear a patch." So, oh my goodness. Well, listen, Martha, have you got him to do X39 yet? Because what I would do, if you're going to have him do it, I would have him do X39 and carnosine, and if he can swing it, the X49 with it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I put him on X39. Oh, it's been a good while back, and just kind of forgot about it. And he said, "Oh, it didn't do anything for him," but I gave him another packet on Thanksgiving and told him, to stay with it, and gave him that patch manual. So I've been looking and searching, and he's had it for several years now, and it's kind of hard to talk to him about it because he
Yeah.
really doesn't, want it out there.
He
But
really needs to go with it, Martha. If nothing else, he needs that carnosine patch.
the
Uh,
carnitine,
yes, ma'am. The two of those together, because what it is, in a lot of the studies that they've done, they believe that one of the contributing factors is heavy aluminum in the brain. And when you can remove, and that's what the carnosine does, it takes that out of the brain. Now, David will tell you to wear that about 3 days a week. But in the beginning, if he did it, let's say for the first week, all 7 days, and then cut back to 5 days the second week, and then go to 3 to 4 days a week, or every other day, really, it would actually last him 2 months, roughly, a pack would. And they're only 40, I think they're $49 or something like that for a pack of those. But I think that would really make a huge difference for him. And the nice thing is he should, if you have him on the carnosine and the X39, you probably would see the change in him in about 30 days.
now I had done some research, and it seems like with Parkinson's, they need the glutathione that plays a
You
big
may be
part in
right.
there.
Right, exactly. Maybe so. And that one he'd need to wear on his foot. Martha, you sound like you're 25, girl. What are you trying to fool us in here for, saying you're 92? You sure you're not 29 and you got that backwards up there?
Yeah, one of these days I'll come on and give you a report. But I've been experimenting on myself now for probably close to 5 months, and it's been up and down. I've done detox. I've noticed, times when, and very sensitive stomach, and but I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it.
Very good, very good. Now, let me ask you, because I had a real bad stomach issue when I started. It took me about 8 months. Um, I think my stomach issue was also contributed because the doctor had me on steroids for so many years. And I finally stopped taking those steroids. And I think with the combination of that, I would put the X39 a lot down on below the navel because of the stomach issue. Um, and it took time, but it seemed to really help me with that as well.
Yeah, but see, I'm also taking heart medications, blood pressure medications, and have been on pain medication for quite some time. So that's probably an interference also.
Yeah, the one I will tell you though, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised after about 8 months to 9 months in that area there. Uh, you will probably start noticing that your blood pressure will start normalizing. That's one of the things. X39 over time will do that. X49 is really good for it as well. But Mine, of course, I was just early hypertension, but mine did normalize, and I would have never believed that. I wouldn't even never wore it for that reason, but it went to perfectly normal blood pressure. I run now like 120/77 on a consistent basis now. Um,
Well, I think I've been seeing changes there, but I'm very cautious about giving testimony till I can really
right.
prove that something's going on.
I definitely understand that. Well, that's exciting though that to hear you sound so nice and helping your son out as well. And I know how those kids are. They're hard headed. So I know mine's almost 40 years old and he's hard headed too. So
Yeah, I had a daughter that was injured by the COVID-19. She took the first shot. And
oh
within 15 minutes, neurologically, her whole side went numb. And she's had high blood pressure ever since then. But I just gave her. She's kind of reluctant. She's into alternative health and all this here, but she was reluctant to try the patches for some reason. But I just gave her a patch yesterday.
well,
So
if we could, will you be there Sunday, Martha, at the one we do on Sunday?
yeah, I'll try.
I'll try to get Jason to come on with us. He had a friend of his that was vaccine injured as well, and he was crippled and could not even walk. They have been doing some studies, and David Schmidt he said, I can't say a lot as of yet. He said, but we're seeing very promising effects of people that have had injuries due to the vaccine that are recovering. And of course, in the case of Jason's friend, he now walks now. He doesn't have any more problems. But it took a good while to do it. And I forget, Jason can tell us how long, but I want to say about 8 months or so before he got in that good of condition.
Yeah, she's done a lot for herself, and she's doing real good right now. But she just recently, her high blood pressure came back up on her, so
Hmm.
it affected her, and she gets that kind of like a numbness on one side of her body.
Yeah, it'll definitely help with that numbness because the one thing it does do, and I still go through this, it's a little scary in a way because I'd lost all the feeling in my left leg, at least all the surface feeling. And I still go through what I call the electrical shocks as the nerves are reconnecting. And now the shocks are all been focused in my knee area, which was the part that was still numb. But now I can feel my knee with no problem. But there, I'd gotten all the feeling back in the thigh area and in the lower leg, but my knee was still very numb up until about a month or so ago. And and I can always tell when those nerves are connecting because you just feel like somebody just took a live electric socket and stuck it to you, and it's just like it just, oh my gosh, it's kind of painful, but yet you realize that it's a good thing happening. And then sure enough, you get a lot of electrocutions, and the next thing you know, you're feeling your body again. And that's the reason I can walk normal, whereas before I couldn't. I couldn't, to get up and down a set of stairs was a big, big challenge. So
Good, thank you.
you're very welcome. So, well, maybe even she would be willing to come listen with you or something, that might be an encouragement for her to hear somebody else. So I'll ask Jason if he'll come, and if she doesn't make it, we'll record it. And that way she could go back and could listen to it. And it might be a blessing for her to want to say, well, gosh, if it helped that guy. And I'll see if I can't find some other people that have had those injuries and share some of those testimonies there just to help encourage people that are looking that need some hope in a case of that type of a damage.
Well, how do you access the recordings?
We have a YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in here for you. What I do is we have a YouTube channel just for this called Banoon X39, And but I'll put that link to make it easier here. Okay, now let me come back to. Can you see it now, Martha?
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. So, but yeah, and we do have some testimonies up there as well from our own group and everything. But I will definitely. In fact, I'll do that before we get off of here. I'll send Jason a text now about Sunday to see if I can get him to come on with us there. So.
Yeah, I invited her to join tonight, but evidently she didn't make it.
That's okay though. So maybe she'll be able to make this Sunday then. So let's see. I'll say, can you join? I'm asking now Sunday and share about vaccine injured friend. He also had a friend of his that had a stroke, and she wasn't that old of a girl. She had a stroke, left her whole side paralyzed. And she got on X39. He said it took a year, but she regained her entire side, came back after being on it for a year. So, and let's see. I'll just ask you 20 minutes or so. But anyway, that'd be nice if we could do that. So I'll let me make myself some notes too real quick so I'm a little bit better prepared for Sunday.
While you're doing that, can I ask a question?
You go right ahead.
Nancy wants me to ask if John spoke at the Prophecy Watchers Conference in Branson.
No, I didn't speak there. No,
Or not tomorrow either.
no, I didn't know. Stan didn't let me know. So I don't know about it.
I thought Nancy said you were planning on speaking there if she heard that on your broadcast.
No. That's
We
I don't
were
know what.
sorry we couldn't go because we wanted to hear you speak for one thing.
Well, no, I'm not in Branson. Nope.
Besides your show, we hear you on the Doug Hagman show quite often.
Yeah, we're doing the first Mondays. We may do it more frequently. I was on once a week for quite a while, but right now it's the first Monday.
I really look forward to it when you're on there with him.
Well, good. Thank you.
Tell him I said hello and I really love his show.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, girls and guys. So anyway, I made some notes for Sunday there. Anything you guys would like for me to research or anything between now and then that we could talk about Sunday? Okay.
That's what we've talked about already.
All right. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna also, I know you guys mentioned that glutathione. Was that for glutathione that helps with
Parkinson's. With Parkinson's.
Parkinson's? Okay, Martha, I'll check on that then. I want to find out the placement of that too, is what I'll look for.
Okay.
I can imagine it would help because I mean glutathione is such an amazing detox to begin with, and it really detoxes the liver very well. And there's something too I saw, and I don't know, but I'd like to look it up too about the fatty liver, and I don't remember. Maybe that was, I don't know if that's patch or something else I saw on that. So
Well, he was a mechanic and he worked on trucks and worked in a lot of solvents. And I read somewhere that played a part too.
that does, it does. Anytime you're around chemicals, welding a lot of times causes leukemia. You know, boy, there's a lot of problems. In fact, I was just torching not too long ago aluminum, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, This is not a good fume to be breathing right about now. So
Allergy helps with the eye.
anyway, all right, guys. So I will see y'all Sunday, and y'all have a great night and great weekend, and we'll see y'all Sunday night.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Great to see
Good
you all.
night.
Good to see you guys. Bye bye now.